Christmas Eve. The carols were soft when I set my glass down and said, "Not in my house." Jason froze with the carving knife in midair. Emily's sleeve had slipped. The bruises were there in plain sight, and the room felt colder than the snow tapping the window. The doorbell rang, one slow chime, then another. "Who is it?" Jason asked. "That I said is the end of your little show." A few hours earlier, it all looked normal enough to pass for peace. "I'm Ray McKenna, 68, retired detective out of Peoria, Illinois. 40 years of listening to what people don't say." I'd strung white lights along the porch rail, set a spruce in the corner, and kept the house at a steady 72 because Emily always ran cold. Turkey under foil rolls, warming coffee, ready sober, since '94. They were due at 6. They came late with 2 bright smiles and a bottle Jason couldn't pronounce. He cracked a joke about cops and donuts, and I let it slide. I took their coats. Emily's felt heavier than winter. She flinched when my fingers brushed her forearm, quick like a sparrow's wing. I might have missed it if I hadn't been trained to see what people hide. In the kitchen, Jason filled space with weather talk and office glory from his job in Bloomington. Emily set plates, eyes skating off mine. She kept her scarf on the blue one I bought last January when it hit 10 below. The house was warm. She shouldn't have needed it. Emma said lightly, "Give me a hand with the potatoes." In the pantry light away from Jason, she reached high. The scarf tugged loose. Her sleeve rode up. Yellow-green freighted with purple crescents along the edge, classic, squeeze and twist. Not new, not old. The kind of bruise that makes a lie sound reasonable to strangers. "You didn't call first," she said. "Jason hates surprises." "Christmas deserves a few," I answered while my head took pictures, angle spread depth of color. "I'm fine," she said, "just clumsy." I slid the sack of potatoes. "Elbow okay?" She didn't answer. It told me enough. Jason took the bowl and set it too hard, silverware rattling. "Careful there, Em," he said, smiling with his mouth and not his eyes. I stepped to the hall, snapped a photo of the mantel clock, 6:47 with the tree in frame, then opened the voice recorder and dropped the phone into my shirt pocket. Habits are ladders, you climb them when the floor gives. Back at the table, I asked Jason how the quarter closed. He held court about incompetence and how a firm needs a strong hand. Emily poured water with a small tremor that made the rim sing. I remembered her at 12, a shortstop with dust on her knees and a grin like morning. "Emily," I said, "help me pull the rolls." By the oven glow, I kept my voice even. "Look at me." She stared at the floor. "Please don't, Dad." "Don't what?" "Don't make this worse." Every instinct wanted to grab her and run. 40 years taught me better. You don't bulldoze victims. You build exits. "No pictures tonight," I said. "But after dessert, you and I take a walk." We ate and pretended. Jason poured wine for himself, water for me, and toasted family. He rested his hand on Emily's shoulder, too long possessive. The turkey was good. The lies were heavy enough to bend the forks. I asked about the drive from Normal. He answered for both. Traffic was fine. Em slept. She paused, then lifted her fork again. I tapped the phone in my pocket and said, "After pie, you and I can talk shop, man to man." He flashed teeth. "Love that." Outside snow fell. I texted my old partner Tom Alvarez to stand by. He called. "What time?" "Late," I said. "When the masks slip." We cleared plates. The furnace kicked on. A neighbor's dog barked once and settled. Emily managed a smile for me she couldn't hold for him. Jason carved turkey into perfect shingles. Men like him believe shape is substance. At 9:58, I rinsed my cup and let quiet stretch. Predators hate silence. It exposes their need to control it. "What Jason said?" I ignored him. I looked at Emily. "Walk." She nodded. We reached for coats. Jason moved fast fingers, closing around the same wrist I'd been pretending not to see all night. Not affection. A handle. "Let her go," I said. He did with a grin. "She gets confused," he told me. "She needs structure." "Does she?" "She falls, a lot." The room felt colder. I set my glass down level with the words I'd been saving. Not in my house. The bell rang, one slow chime, then another. Emily's eyes flicked to the door. Jason's knuckles tightened on the knife. He tried to sound casual. "Who is it?" "That," I said, "is the end of your little show." Snow tapped the window. Jason worked the math on his face, how much he could talk out of how much of Emily he still owned, how much of me he'd misjudged. I'd seen that look in interview rooms and kitchens where lies finally ran out. You can't manufacture truth, but you can prepare a place for it to land. Earlier, I'd made that place the pantry moment, a timestamp on the clock, a recorder in my pocket, and an old friend who still believed in a clean knock on a dirty door. The rest would come after. Part one of any fight is simple. See clearly, stand up, say the line. I said it. Not in my house. I didn't open the door right away. You learn to control time when you worked homicide, stretch a second, slow a breath, buy a little space between judgment and mistake. The bell was still fading when I let my eyes settle on Jason's hands. Right one on the knife. Left one restless looking for something to hold. He likes handles, I thought. People too. Folks ask how a father doesn't see sooner. The truth is you see pieces. Life scatters them for you and calls it normal. Emily moved to Normal apt name after she married Jason 3 years back. A 2-bedroom off Beach Street, beige siding, tidy little stoop with 2 mums in the fall. He worked sales for a regional parts supplier in Bloomington. She did books for a dentist on Linden. They were 35 minutes from my place on the north side of Peoria if I took 74 and made the lights. Close enough in theory. The first winter, they drove over twice a month. Jason always had some place to be by 7. He liked to tell me what winners do with their evenings. The second year, visits thinned. FaceTimes were shorter. Bad signal, he'd say, standing just out of frame. Emily's camera was always pointed at a ceiling fan or a corner of the couch. I asked about her church group from when she was a girl at St. Jude. She said she hadn't found a good fit yet. Translation isolation working the way it's meant to. Last Easter I called and Jason answered her phone. She's down for a nap, he said. Big day yesterday. Put her on, I said. Don't be pushy, Ray. He laughed like we were pals. You know how she gets. I hung up and stared at my sober coin. 30 years that little brass circle has lived in my pocket, warm from my hand. I've wanted a drink twice in the last decade. That day was one of them. Over the summer, we set a Saturday for steaks on my grill. Morning of a text, car trouble. Next week. Next week came and went. Then a Labor Day invite to their place. When I arrived with a pie from Trefsker's, Jason's truck was gone, and Emily's smile was fragile as a soap bubble. Her cardigan sleeves were down in 86 degrees. I asked about the AC. She said it worked fine. A small scab hid under makeup at her temple. Cabinet door, she said quickly. People always choose the house as the villain. Stairs, rugs, cabinets, the usual suspects. I offered to help her swap the cabinet hinges for soft close. Jason likes them loud, she said, and I filed that line in the old drawer where important things sit until their number's called. I started running quiet checks the way retired cops do. Nothing fancy, nothing illegal. I talked to the neighbor with the plastic flamingos, Marge. Nice girl, she said. Keeps to herself. He keeps schedules. Marge's pause wasn't long, but it had weight. At the dentist office on Linden, I brought in a box of donuts for the staff in broad daylight and made like I was an old man with a crown issue. Mrs. Shaw at the front desk said Emily had taken more sick days than usual. Migraines, she added, like it explained the world. Migraines do explain a lot. Lights, noise, a sudden need to lie down. They also explain why an abuser likes control of lamps, TVs, cabinet doors. I asked Tom Alvarez, my partner for the last decade, before I hung it up to run open source looks. No fishing expedition, just what a civilian could see with a little persistence. He called me from his porch on a Sunday while the Cubs were trying to remember how to hit. Nothing on the blotter, he said. No arrests. HOA complained about a truck parked the wrong direction. And Ray, there's a public civil docket from before he met M. Temporary restraining order. Dismissed 2 months later. No details in the online summary. Name the county, I said. He named it and I felt my jaw set. I want to be clear about something I never wanted to be right. I wanted to be the overbearing father who read too much into shadows, the relic from another time, who still believed you could talk a man into decency. But men like Jason don't negotiate with conscience. They negotiate with power. 2 weeks before Christmas, Emily called from her car. I could hear the highway wash and her breathing like someone learning to swim. Dad, I'm fine, she said without hello. We've been busy. Jason's up for a promotion. What about you, I asked. I'm okay. Are you alone? I shouldn't talk. The blinker clicked left, right, left like a metronome for fear. I'll see you Christmas Eve. Good, I said. 6 o'clock. I'll have the coffee on. She didn't say she loved me. Emily always says she loves me. The line died like a candle under a glass. The morning of the 24th, I swept the porch twice. I baked a second pan of rolls I didn't need. I polished the old picture of her mother by the hallway June, on that riverbank in '81, sun, on her hair eyes saying things to me I still try to answer. I set a place for Emily at my right, same as when she was 6, and thought black olives on her fingers were hilarious. Memory can shore you up. It can also make you soft. I reminded myself which job tonight required. You already know what came next: the coats, the scarf, the flinch, the pantry light, the bruise, the lie she thought might hold, just clumsy. The phrase is practically an index tab in the domestic file. I did not argue. I did not lecture. I made a place for truth to land later: a time stamp, a recorder, a friend with a clean knock. Back in the present, Jason's smile had turned to a thin shape like a paper cut. "We don't need company," he said. "It's family night." He lifted the knife to carve another slice he could control and found my eyes on his wrist first. Predators know when the weather changes. He felt it. The room pivoted on a pin he couldn't see. "Relax," he told Emily. "You're making a scene." She wasn't. Not yet. He was. Men like him are always making scenes. They just count on women to clean the stage before anyone notices. "You still haven't answered," he said to me louder. "Who is it?" I let the second ring come and go. I breathed once slow. 40 years teaches you that the first thing you say in a doorway can decide the next 6 months of your life. It also teaches you that you don't walk through one without backup if you can help it. "Someone I trust," I said. Jason laughed, but the sound had a crack in it. "You called the cops on Christmas." "I called a friend," I said. "The cops call him when they want it done right." He didn't like that. Control slipped a half-inch. He shifted his feet. The knife edge flashed in the tree lights like a cheap promise. "Emily," I said without looking at her. "Go stand by the hallway, hands visible. Breathe." She moved. Small steps. I heard the whisper of sock on hardwood, the intake of air she'd been holding for 3 years. The bell rang a third time, low and patient. Alvarez doesn't pound. He never had to. I headed for the door. Tom Alvarez stood on my porch in his old wool peacoat, breath ghosting in the cold. No uniform, no badge, showing just the posture of a man who hadn't forgotten how to fill a doorway. "Evening, Ray," he said, eyes past my shoulder. He didn't ask permission to enter. He waited for it. We've both seen what happens when pride gets a better lawyer than truth. "Come in," I said. "Coats on the hooks to the left." He stepped inside and shut the door gentle like church. Snow hissed on the porch light. Alvarez glanced once at the tree, at the knife in Jason's hand, at Emily by the hallway, with her fingers braided together. He clocked the whole room the way a medic takes a pulse fast, quiet, complete. Jason tried to laugh and didn't quite make it. "Who the hell are you?" Tom Alvarez said simply. "Friend of the family." He nodded at the table. "Smells good." Jason's chin went up a degree. He didn't like that Tom took a place in the room without asking him for it. "We were having a private dinner," he said to me, not to Tom. "Emily and I don't need whatever this is." "Whatever this is," I said, "is a conversation that happens here or in the driveway. Your choice. The neighbors won't enjoy the driveway." Emily's eyes flashed to mine. She understood the translation, public or private, either way, I wasn't letting him move the scene to his turf. Alvarez stayed by the door, hands visible. He didn't have to say he had a body cam in his coat pocket. Tom's always had insurance. Jason set the knife down too hard again and spread his hands like a man auditioning for innocence. "You're overreacting, Ray. She's fine." He glanced toward Emily. "Tell him." The old script. I heard pages turning. I pulled 2 chairs out from the table and left one empty between them. "Sit," I said to Jason, not loud, not soft. He didn't move. "Jason," Emily said, voice small, "please." He sat. I sat across with the empty chair between us, like a neutral country neither of us intended to honor. Alvarez stayed in the foyer facing us, but watching the window glass too. If Jason bolted, Tom would be the first thing he hit. Tom didn't mind. "You said Emily is fine," I began. "Prove it." Prove what Jason said, and if you've ever watched a liar stall, you know that Tom were too airy, like his words forgot their bones. "Start with how she got the bruises." I kept my hands flat on the table, palms down like I was blessing a meal. and explain why she's been sick on random Tuesdays since June. He blinked. She's clumsy, she trips, she bruises easily, and migraines run in her family. Do they? I said. Ray, Tom said mildly from behind me. Make sure you speak up for the recorder. Jason turned. Recorder. I slid the phone out of my pocket and tapped the screen. The little red bar inched along time like an ant. I'll save us both from he said, she said, I told him. You'll be grateful later. Or a judge will. His mouth pinched. This is harassment. No, I said, it's documentation. Emily made a sound like a button popping. Dad. I lifted a hand toward her without taking my eyes off Jason. You okay to answer a few? I asked softly. She swallowed, yes. I kept the question simple the way you do, when truth is heavy and the mouth is tired. Did you fall this week? No. Did you hit your arm on a cabinet? No. Did anyone grab your wrist? A beat, then yes. Hui when kunionas. Jason's jaw worked. Emily's eyes went to the place on the table where his hand had just been. Jason, she whispered. Jason barked a laugh that cracked in the middle. We were arguing. She gets hysterical, Ray. I was trying to calm her down. That's not a crime. Depends, Tom said, still mild. Context is 9/10 of law. Jason sneered. You a cop? Used to be, Tom said. Like your father-in-law. You'd like the paperwork we do. I slid an envelope from under a placemat and kept it closed for now. Jason watched it like it might bite him. I let him stew in the unknown, then flicked the flap up and fanned 3 photos on the table, Emily's wrist under the pantry light, the mantel clock with the time the tree lit behind it. Every picture had a morning paper tucked into the corner of the frame, a trick I learned when memory starts to fight the calendar. Jason stared, then looked at the tree like the lights had betrayed him. You ambushed me, he said. No, I said. I prepared. You ambush. Different verbs. He scraped his chair back an inch. We're leaving. No, I said again. Emily can leave. You can sit. Emily stared at me. Dad. You can leave now and go to Aunt Nora's. She's 10 minutes away on Lake Avenue and awake because she sleeps like a cat. Tom will walk you to the car. Jason shot to his feet. You're not taking my wife anywhere. Alvarez's voice reached him from the doorway, soft as a cushion under a fall. Jason, I'd keep your hands down. Jason looked at me, then at Tom, then at the front window. He calculated. Men like him run the numbers: 2 older men, 1 relatively fit, a door 10 feet away, a kitchen knife, a wife on the edge of standing, a winter night with neighbors home. You could watch the math change his posture. He sat again, not because he chose to, but because gravity picked a side. Emily didn't move. That told me 3 things at once. She was afraid of what he'd do if she left. She was afraid of what he'd do if she stayed, and she'd learned to anticipate both. Okay, I said quietly. We can do it this way too. I opened the other envelope I'd set on the hutch before dinner. Tom had passed it to me in an unmarked manila, with his handwriting that looks like fence posts, straight up and down, no flourishes. I slid out a printout with county letterhead and set it between Jason's hands. He didn't touch it. He didn't have to. He could read the bold type from a foot-away petition for order of protection, 2017, dismissed at petitioner's request. Different woman. Different county. People dismiss for all kinds of reasons, I said. Fear, money, bad advice. It doesn't make the bruise go away. Jason found his voice. You can't use that. I didn't say I would, I said. But I know it exists. That matters when I choose how careful to be. The furnace kicked on again. Somewhere 2 blocks over, a snow shovel scraped a sidewalk in long, even strokes. The whole neighborhood was putting its house to rights while mine sat still with the past and present on the table like 2 cards showing. Jason tipped his head toward Emily's stage, whispering like he was doing her a favor. Tell your dad you love me. She didn't answer. Tell him, he repeated louder. I leaned forward and lowered my voice until he had to lean in to hear it. Jason, I said, I'm not your audience. He tried another tack. Do you know what happens to a man's career when some retired has-been makes a scene I'm up for a regional? You'll ruin our lives. Our lives, I repeated, like her life belongs in your wallet. He stood again, faster this time, and the chair legs skated half an inch on the rug. Tom took 1 step off the foyer, and the room shrank to the size of the table. Jason reached for his pocket. Hands, Tom said, not loud. Jason froze with 2 fingers in his jeans like he'd been caught stealing from the church jar. You thinking car keys, I asked. You planning a drive? He didn't answer. Alvarez's eyes flicked to me. He didn't need words. We've done this dance through too many kitchens. Here's how this goes, I said. Emily stays or goes where she chooses. You sit still or you wait on the porch for a squad. You don't touch anything but the edge of that chair. Jason smiled the way a dam smiles right before the seam opens. The mantel clock clicked, 9:59 to 10. Pick, I told him. He slid his hand out of his pocket, slow palm empty. He tapped the table once, a small drumbeat of defiance, then shoved his chair back so hard it kissed the drywall. He walked to the door, grabbed his coat, and turned the knob. That's when the phone on the counter buzzed a hard, urgent burr that made Emily flinch. Jason looked at the screen and went white in the space of one breath. He turned back to me, voice thin. Who did you call, Ray? I didn't answer Jason's question. I watched his eyes answer it for me. Who did you call, Ray? The phone on the counter buzzed again, hard enough to shimmy a spoon. He flipped it over with his thumbnail. The color drained out of him like someone pulled a plug. Alvarez didn't move. You can put it on speaker, he said. Jason hesitated, then jabbed the icon. A text read aloud in a flat, synthetic voice. Do not call me again, I spoke to the officer. If you come near me or her, I will testify. Lindsay. Emily's hands rose to her mouth. She didn't know the name. I did. County Docket 2017. Petition dismissed at petitioner's request. Jason killed the speaker and stared at me like I'd kicked the legs off his world. You went digging. I read, I said, and I listened. He tried to laugh, but the sound broke. You think some bitter ex makes me guilty of anything tonight? I think patterns don't retire, I said, and neither do bruises. He took 2 steps toward me and found Tom's presence in the air between us like a glass wall. You spend years with a man and you learn where he'll be before he gets there. Alvarez didn't square up. He angled. It told Jason the future without promising it. All I hear, Jason said, is a couple of old men trying to control a family that isn't theirs. Family, I said. You use that word like a crowbar. Emily found her voice. Jason, please, stop. He threw a hand at her without looking. Not a hit of dismissal. Sometimes the dismissals bruise more. We're leaving. You're not taking her anywhere, I said. If Emily chooses to go, she goes with her father or on her own, not with you. His jaw popped. You don't get to decide that. I'm not, I said. She is, for once. I turned my head a little, just enough for Emily to see my face without giving Jason my throat. Em, you can go to Aunt Nora's right now. She's up. Tom will walk you to the car. We'll follow. Emily's eyes filled. Dad, she shook her head like the words would blow away any second. Emily, Tom said, voice like a handrail, do you want to step outside and call Nora? I'll stand with you. She looked at Jason, then at me, then at the door. The decision lived on her tongue like a hot coin she couldn't spit out. Jason cut in. Sit down, he told her, quiet and dangerous. You're not going anywhere with these two. Jason, I said, lower your voice. He smiled without humor, or what? In this house, I said, you will speak to my daughter like she isn't a dog. He started to answer. The phone buzzed again. Different tone voicemail this time. He swiped. A man's voice. Jason, it's Eric from HR. You and I need to talk after the holiday. Give me a call when you can. The message ended with an email address and a company sign-off that would look very professional at a deposition. Jason's eyes shot up. What did you... Public record, Tom said before I could. Your temper at the warehouse. The forklift incident in October. You might want to get ahead of that. Or don't. Up to you. Jason looked like a man trying to hold 2 heavy boxes and realizing one was full of water. I saw the question form fight or flight. The answer depends less on courage than on audience. He scanned for one and found only 3 people who no longer believed him. I took the next step the way you take a ladder rung in an attic where the joists are close and the floor is a rumor. Jason, I said we can do this clean. You sit, you listen. Emily answers what she wants, nothing more. Then you leave and tomorrow we file what's appropriate. Or, and listen carefully, here you can open your mouth and make a threat. You can grab a wrist or a knife or car keys. You can demonstrate to my camera and to Tom's body cam exactly what you are. But I won't stop that train once it rolls. He shifted his weight toward the door again. The old trick, create, motion, confuse authority. He grabbed his coat half into the sleeve. I'm calling my lawyer. Fine, I said. Do it on the porch. Why the porch? Girlfriend chum. Better reception. He snorted, but the need to declare control won. He yanked the door open. Cold rushed in, carrying the honest smell of snow and neighbor's smoke. Alvarez stepped to the threshold with him, one hand invisible under the pea coat where a mic sat. Porch is good, Tom said. We'll give you a minute. Jason stepped out. The door closed to a palm's width and stayed there. We heard his voice drop low, then low and fierce. Tom's head tilted the way a bird's does when it finds a worm. You listen with your bones at times like that. Inside, I turned to Emily. Breathe with me. We did it the way her mother used to when the thunder got close, slow and slow out. The house creaked. The tree lights blinked and blinked like nothing was happening at all. I'm scared, she said. I know, I said. But look at what's here, photos with a timestamp. Your voice on my recorder, his voice on Tom's. A prior petition with a name and a year. The neighbor's Ring camera across the street. Marge's son installs them on everything, including his lawnmower. We're not walking into the dark M. We're walking down a lit hallway. She wiped her eyes. He said he'd take everything if I ever made him look bad. My job, the car, the apartments in his name. He said I'd end up back here a failure. Back here isn't failure, I said. Back here is home, and you'd never fail me by telling the truth. Her shoulders lifted, then fell. She looked more like herself in that second than she had in a year. The door opened. Jason stepped in, cheeks red from the air, eyes bright from something else. He didn't have his coat fully on. He didn't have a lawyer on the line. What he had was a decision. Here's what's going to happen, he said, jabbing a finger at Emily. You're going to apologize to me for this circus, and you're going to get in the car, and we're going to talk like adults. No, I said. He ignored me. You hear me? Emily's throat worked. Jason, I'm not. He took a step. Tom moved 1 inch. Jason stopped, not because he respected the inch, but because something in him finally recognized history. Predators remember bigger predators. Don't, Tom said. Jason looked past him at me. Tell her to stop embarrassing me. She's not embarrassing you, I said. She's saving herself. He laughed, mean thin. From what a bruise you two going to take me to court over a bruise? If it's all we had, I said, maybe not. But we also have your words from the porch. His chin jerked. Tom didn't smile, but something behind his eyes did. Jason lost a beat. He tried to grab it back with volume. You think anyone cares what you two say? A washed-up drunk and his shadow from the good old days. I haven't had a drink in 30 years, I said. You won't get that lucky. He leaned toward Emily and hissed something I won't repeat. It was ugly in the old simple way ugliness prefers. My phone caught it. Tom's did too. Emily flinched like a reflex her body didn't want anymore. Enough, I said, and my voice had the weight I save for when people forget oxygen is for sharing. This is the only warning you get under this roof. He eased back, eyes slitted. You call the police and I'll... There it is, Tom said softly. There's your future. Jason hurt himself. He shut his mouth on the rest of the sentence, but the air kept the shape of it. For a second, I wanted the old satisfaction, the quick correction, the clean arc of a man meeting a wall. But satisfaction is a cheap fix in a house with witnesses and cameras. Justice is slower and heavier and leaves fewer stains. Said I told him for the last time, we'll wait. For what he spat. I glanced at the clock. 10:08. For you to choose whether tonight ends with a porch and car keys or a driveway and lights? Emily touched my sleeve. Dad, please don't call them. Not yet. Please. Her voice wasn't fear now. It was something worse, or hope he'd stop because we asked him to. The hope that keeps people in burning rooms. I looked at her hand on my arm. I looked at Jason's face, already moving toward its next lie, already storing tonight as ammunition. Em, I said, I hear you. I also heard the low roll of tires in fresh snow 2 blocks over. The tires whispered closer, then stopped. Headlights slid across the living room wall, pale and thin through the curtains. Emily's hand tightened on my sleeve. Dad, she said, I can't. Not tonight, please. She wasn't bargaining for him. She was bargaining for a version of the world where asking nicely still changed men like Jason. I had chased that world across blood-slick kitchens and back porches a long time ago. It's a map that keeps redrawing itself to spare the child who lives in us. We'll take this 1 inch at a time, I told her. You don't owe anyone your fear. Jason saw the lights and squared his shoulders like a man choosing a hill to die on. You called them, he said. I called time, I said. The porch boards creaked under a heavy step. Not a rush, not a stomp, just a weight that had done this often enough to make noise without noise. Tom looked at me. I nodded. He cracked the door. Deputy Carla Knox from the Peoria County Sheriff's Office stood there in a winter hat and a duty jacket, with the zipper half up. I knew her by reputation, 5 years on clean paper spine, like a chalk line. She kept one gloved hand holding her hat in place and the other away from her belt the way good deputies do when they come into a house that's still deciding what it wants to be. Evening, she said. Got a call from a concerned party about a welfare check. She didn't glance at Tom's coat. She didn't need to. Everyone okay in here? Jason flashed the soft smile he saves for waitresses in HR. Officer, we're fine. Family dinner. My father-in-law is a little excitable. We don't need any trouble. Deputy, she corrected mildly. And I don't bring trouble. I write it down. She let her eyes move to Emily last. Ma'am. Emily looked like a person with a mouthful of rain. She swallowed it and managed, I'm okay. Deputy Knox nodded. Would you like to step outside for some air with me just for a second? No one else needs to come. Jason opened his mouth. Tom's presence closed it again. Emily looked at me. Your choice, I said. No clocks here. She nodded and followed the deputy onto the porch, pulling the scarf tighter around her collarbone. The door eased shut, leaving me with Jason and Tom and the tree lights that flickered like they did in the 90s when the wiring in these old houses got picky. Jason laughed once short. This is how you want to spend your retirement, playing cop with your buddy for an audience. You think any of this sticks? I don't think I said, I prepare. He paced 2 steps, hands making small circles in the air, a man rehearsing a story. She falls Ray. She's always been like that. You know Emily. I know Emily, I said, and I know stairs. He tried another door. You push this, I call a lawyer and file a report about you harassing us. I tell HR you're unstable. You came after me with a friend, you're drunk. I haven't had a drink since '94, I said, and you told my phone that on the porch. He blinked. He'd forgotten. Men like him are sure the story resets every room. The front door opened again. Cold slid across the floor. Deputy Knox stepped in first, head angled to the left like she was listening to a radio only she could hear. Emily came behind her eyes, red but open. Here's where we are, the deputy said, voice even. I'm not making an arrest at this time. What I am doing is documenting a call for service at this address and the presence of visible injuries. Ms. McKenna can choose to make a statement tonight or later. I will offer resources either way. Jason's chin lifted. Visible injuries. Knox didn't answer him. She looked at Emily. Do you want photos taken tonight? We can do them here or you can come down tomorrow. Medical is always a good idea. ER or urgent care can document without making you wait for a report. Emily glanced at me. Tomorrow, please. Okay, Knox said, and I saw the little shift good cops make when a victim stakes a claim on time. She pulled a small card from her pocket and handed it over. This has my name, the report number once it's created, and the hotline. If you want an order of protection, the clerk's office opens at 9 a.m. tomorrow. I've got a pamphlet in the car. I'll grab it before I leave. Jason couldn't help himself. This is ridiculous. We had a nice dinner. She bumped into. Knox turned her head just enough to include him without gifting him her full attention. Sir, I'm going to ask you not to interrupt Miss McKenna. It's Mrs., he said automatically, then realized what he'd given away and tried to soften it with for now. Words tell on you when you're not looking. Emily's voice surprised me. Deputy, she said, if I needed to go somewhere else tonight, could you? Would you stand by while I get my things? Jason spun. You're not. Tom cut him off by existing. You were saying he asked, the deputy eyes never leaving Jason's face. Knox nodded once. Yes, ma'am, I can do a standby. It's a civil standby, not a forced move, but I'll be present while you collect essentials. She ticked them off softly. ID keys, medications, clothes chargers. Anything else can wait. Jason threw his hands up. This is insane. You are not walking out in the middle of the night because he wants to feel like a hero. Emily looked at me and the thing in her face that had been a tremble settled into a line. I'm walking out, she said, because I want to sleep. Jason's mouth opened. No words came. The room heard the absence. I kept my voice level. You're leaving with Deputy Knox. Tom and I will follow in my truck. We'll meet at Nora's. Jason, I let his name sit like a plate you put down too hard, letting the sound carry. You can come back tomorrow for anything else with a deputy present. Or you can call me and I'll box what I choose. You don't get to choose, he said. I choose safety in my house, I said. Tonight that means you don't shadow her to a car. He moved a step toward the hallway. Tom moved a half. It looked like nothing. It meant everything. Sir Knox said to Jason, "You're welcome to stay here and call whoever you want. But if you interfere with Miss McKenna leaving, I will take a statement on scene." Jason looked from Tom to Knox to me. The math he loved so much finally did him the kindness of certainty. He backed 2 steps and spread his arms, martyr ready for a portrait. "Go ahead, run to Daddy, see how that plays." Emily picked up her bag from the chair where she'd set it on arrival. It wasn't heavy. She had never been allowed to pack heavy. She paused by the tree. There's a photo from '96 of Emily at 6, holding a cardboard star tongue, out in concentration, while I lifted her on my shoulder. She touched the tree now like it might remember that night and share some of its balance. Knox opened the door. "Will be 2 minutes," she said to the room and the world. They stepped into the cold. Tom and I watched them cross the porch and go down the steps. The cruiser's headlights brushed their coats, and then they were silhouettes moving through silver. Jason deflated, then refilled with a different gas. "Congratulations," he said to me. "You just made an enemy." "I've had worse," I said. He leaned on the table with 2 fist knuckles blanching. "I know where she works. I know her schedule. I can make things harder than you can imagine." I reached for the envelope with the county letterhead and slid it back into view, then laid my brass, sober coin on top of it. The coin caught the tree light and painted gold on his anger. "Here's what you should imagine," I said. "Calls logged, photos time-stamped, your porch statement on 2 devices, your HR man leaving messages because of October, Lindsay ready to testify, and a deputy who just watched you try to herd your wife back into a cage." He tried to hold my eyes. He lost and looked at the knife instead. "You think I'm scared of paperwork?" "I think you're scared of being seen," I said. "Paperwork just teaches people how to look." The door opened. Deputy Knox stepped back in cheeks pink from air breath even. "She's in the car," she said. "I'll follow her to the address she gave me." "Lake Avenue," I said. "My sister Nora." Knox nodded. "We'll note it." "Sir," to Jason now, who'd gone very still, "I suggest you stay put for an hour. Cool off, make your calls. If you leave here and park outside that address, we'll have our next conversation in a different tone." Jason swallowed. For the first time all night, he faced an authority that didn't fit inside his mirror. Knox tipped her hat at me, nodded at Tom, and was gone. The house exhaled. The tree blinked. The furnace spoke its old language of pipes and patience. Tom turned to me, a question tucked into his eyebrows. "You heard him," I said. "He thinks he can make her pay for leaving." Tom shrugged into his coat. "Then we pay first." "How?" "We make it public," he said. "Not a tabloid, a record. Tomorrow morning, order of protection, medical documentation, HR with counsel, the neighbor's ring footage, the whole boring, beautiful machine of it. You know the way." I did. I hated that I did. I loved that I did. The front door clicked once more. Emily was gone into the night, not running, walking. Sometimes walking is the bravest speed. Jason stood there with his anger and the knife and all his old tricks sitting like useless tools on a bench. He wanted a scene. I gave him a script. "You're going to sleep alone tonight," I said. "Then tomorrow you're going to learn a new vocabulary. It starts with no and ends with order. Practice it." He smiled a mean boy smile. "You'll see me again." "Yes," I said, "but not in here." Christmas morning smelled like coffee and cold air. Nora kept her bungalow cool and believed in quilts over thermostats. Emily sat at the end of the couch in one of her Afghan's hair-up eyes, glassy. Tom slept in his truck out front. He'd argued. I'd lost. That's what partners are for. I called Deputy Knox. She answered on the second ring. "Morning." "Courthouse is closed today," I said. "Right. Fill the online intake. Emergency petitions get heard next business day. Medical can be done today, OSF St. Francis or Unity Point. I'll note a welfare follow-up." "Thank you." "I only open doors," she said. "You walk through." At OSF, the waiting room was television light and peppermint. The doctor was kind and precise. He measured, photographed, wrote sentences that could stand up in a wood-paneled room. He offered a kit. Emily shook her head. He didn't press. A social worker came in with a folder, Hotlines Shelters, a simple safety plan. Make copies of everything she said. Keep one with someone you trust. We will, I said. We left with papers in a manila envelope that thumped when I set it down. In the lot, my phone buzzed. Eric Holcomb at Tri-State Supply. We're arranging a meeting on the 27th with counsel, he said when I called back. If Ms. McKenna wishes to provide a statement, we'll receive it. She does. Then we'll email the details. And Mr. McKenna, thank you for calling today. Back at Nora's, Tom photographed the hospital envelope for our file. Next her apartment, he said, civil standby. 3 o'clock, Knox confirmed. Emily slept an hour. When she woke, she looked younger and lighter. Trauma plays with math. I made eggs the way her mother did low-heat patient because breakfast is a kind of promise. She ate half and apologized for the rest. Don't, I said. Eating is living, not a test. We drove to Normal under pewter sky. Deputy Knox met us in the lot. She stood in the doorway while Emily packed documents, meds, a sweater she loved. She set the wedding photo down like a hot pan and kept going. At the dresser, she paused over a small shoebox ticket stubs, a Polaroid of her, at 12 in a Chiefs cap, the church bulletin from her mother's funeral. She slid the box into her bag and zipped it like a stitch. Across the landing, Marge's son Derek cracked his door. Need the ring footage from Tuesday. He pressed a thumb drive into my palm. Door slam, yelling in the stairwell. Thank you. Keep it, he said. By dusk, Emily's things were in Nora's spare room, and Jason's Echo was out of them. We stopped at the hardware store for deadbolts, then ordered Chinese because grief wants salt. Tom changed the locks with the steadiness of a man installing boundaries. My phone chimed twice, unknown number, then blocked. I didn't answer. Tom shook his head. No replies. Let the log make the case. December 26th. We reached the Peoria County Courthouse before the coffee cart steamed. Old paper smell. Salt rings on the tile. The clerk slid forms under the glass. Emergency order of protection. Advocate on site. Michelle wore a bluebird scarf and moved like copy paper was a balm. Facts here, she said, tapping boxes. Dates, times, what was said, what was done. Make it plain. Plain stands up. Emily wrote like she was signing into a new life. I added my statement, time-stamped photos recorder. Details, Deputy Knox's card, neighbor's footage, prior docket. Tom added porch notes in handwriting that makes judges believe in straight lines. We waited on a wood bench. People sat with coats open and hope folded small. A bailiff with a barbershop part called Case's voice, even as a level. Courthouses hum with math. Add courage, subtract excuses, divide time. In 3B, the carpet was brown and the flag clean enough. The judge listened, asked Emily 2 questions. Do you fear further harm? Do you need protection today? And waited for her answers, like time wasn't expensive. She signed the emergency order and set the plenary hearing for the 27th at 10 a.m. courtroom 3B. Service, she asked. Deputy Knox will handle. Safety plan. Family locks, deputy standby. Outside air bit clean. Emily held the stamped papers like a passport to a place that learned her name the right way. We drove to Nora's by streets that knew our tires. Nora put on a kettle and told us the gossip of Lake Avenue in a voice that made the room sturdy. My phone buzzed. Lindsay. I'd left her a message after her text. Mr. McKenna, she said, I'll testify. I was 26 when I dismissed the order. I won't be 26 again. Plenary hearing tomorrow morning, I said. 3B. I'll be there, she said. He won't see me first, but he'll see me. Tom came back from a short errand with snow on his shoulders and that small look he wears when a day goes the way it ought. Service made, he said. Knox found him at the apartment. He scowled, swallowed, promised he wouldn't need another dose. Tomorrow, I said. Tomorrow, Emily echoed. She put the manila envelope in the middle of the table and rested her hand on it like a heartbeat. 3B, Tom said. With a room full of strangers, I added, and a gavel that still knows how to fall. Courtroom 3B had that old courthouse smell, polish and paper, and people doing their best. The benches creaked like they knew every story already. Tom sat beside me in his blue flannel elbows and chin, forward the way he listens to baseball on the radio. Emily was ahead of us at counsel table with the advocate Michelle. Her hair was back, her scarf gone. She had the hospital envelope and the photos in a neat stack, corners squared. She looked small and unbreakable at the same time. I've seen that in soldiers and in kindergarten teachers. Jason came in 5 minutes late wearing a suit that belonged to a better man. He scanned the room like it owed him a favor, then set his jaw when he saw me. He didn't see Lindsay in the back row. She'd picked the corner behind a pillar the way you do when you need a wall. The clerk called the case. We all stood and the judge took the bench a woman with reading glasses on a beaded chain and a voice that could quiet a gym. She explained what the hearing was and wasn't what she could and couldn't do. No theatrics, just rules offered like guardrails. Ms. McKenna, she said, do you still seek an order of protection? Yes, Your Honor, Emily said. Proceed. Michelle stood. She didn't grandstand. She walked the court through it like a careful driver at night, how Christmas Eve began the bruise under the pantry light, the time-stamped photos, the medical notes from OSF, the deputy's welfare check, the civil standby, the porch statements captured on 2 devices, the neighbor's ring clip time-stamped, Tuesday at 9:12 p.m. Voices in the stairwell. A door slam, Emily's muffled apology that made my teeth ache, and the prior petition in a different county dismissed years ago. She offered copies like bricks one atop another until the wall held itself up. Jason's turn came. He didn't have counsel. He had charm. He tried to pour it on the room like syrup. Your Honor, I love my wife. She bruises easily. She's emotional. Her father, well, he's a retired detective, and this is what he knows how to do. He makes everything a case. We had a disagreement, I raised my voice. He cut his eyes at me, then back to the judge. I never hurt her. The judge didn't blink. Do you dispute the photographs? I dispute the story attached to them. Do you dispute the hospital documentation? I dispute the interpretation. Do you dispute the audio? He hesitated, then tried to smile. Things sound different out of context. Good, the judge said. We will make context. She looked to the back. Is Ms. Lindsay Hart present? Lindsay stood. Jason finally saw her, and the color left him like music fading out mid-note. Ms. Hart, the judge said, you're not a party to this case, but your name appears in the record attached to an earlier civil matter involving Mr. Dalton. You may offer a brief statement if you wish. Lindsay stepped forward, hands steady. Your Honor, I filed an order in 2017 and dismissed it because I was 26 and thought I could manage a man who didn't want managing. I can't speak to this case, but I can say the bruise pattern in those photos is the same shape as the ones I covered with makeup. The voice on that porch. Same sentences, different weather. She swallowed and lifted her chin. That's all. Michelle played the ring clip. Tinny audio, but clear enough. Jason's voice in the stairwell, tight and mean. You embarrass me again. The door slammed, cut the verb off, but the air kept the shape. That's the thing about threats. Even when they stop, they keep going. Jason opened his mouth to object. The judge lifted a finger. Mr. Dalton, I'm listening. He tried anger next. This is a pile-on. They're making me out to be a monster because I raised my voice. Her father's friends are cops. I'm outnumbered. You're not on a playground, the judge said. You're in a court of law. Evidence is not a crowd. She turned to Emily. Miss McKenna, do you fear further harm? Emily didn't look at me. She looked at the judge and told the truth. Yes, Your Honor. Do you need protection today? Yes. All right, the judge said, and the room exhaled a little. She spoke the words slow enough to nail them into the record. I'm granting a plenary order of protection for a period of 2 years with leave to extend upon petition. Mr. Dalton will vacate the marital residence within 24 hours under civil standby. No contact, direct or indirect, except through counsel. Surrender of firearms within 48 hours. Enrollment in a certified intervention program as a condition of any future parenting time. Violations will be addressed with contempt or criminal referral. Ms. McKenna, you will receive the signed order at the clerk's window shortly. Jason laughed, a short bark meant for himself. So that's it. You don't even want to hear from my employer. The judge slid her glasses up her nose. Mr. Dalton, your employer may hear from counsel regardless. But this court isn't managing your career. We're managing your distance. She tapped the file. And Mr. McKenna's sobriety is not at issue today. His careful documentation is. He stared at me like I'd pulled a string in the sky. I didn't. I just tied the knots where they belonged. Deputy Knox, the judge added, spotting Carla in the back, thank you for your report and presence. Please coordinate service and standby. Yes, Your Honor, Knox said. The gavel didn't slam. It settled a soft wooden truth. Case after hours moved forward. People stood, sat, stood again. We waited at the clerk's window while the order printed. The machine hummed like a refrigerator at night. Michelle slid the copies into plastic sleeves and Emily signed where signatures go. She touched the top page and whispered, "I can sleep." In the hallway, Jason tried one last script. He came up close enough for Tom to move without thinking. "Emily," he said, smile leveled like a tool, "you don't have to do this. We can fix it. Your dad won't be here forever." Emily turned and I watched the room recalibrate around her. "You're right," she said. "He won't. But I will." She looked at Deputy Knox. "Is this close enough for a violation?" Knox nodded once, and Jason backed up like he'd found a fence in a dark yard. Eric from HR arrived with a lawyer whose shoes cost more than my mortgage did in '88. He shook Emily's hand first. "We'll schedule time to speak. If you're comfortable, we'd like your statement." He glanced at Jason. "And Mr. Dalton, per company policy, consider yourself on administrative leave pending review." Jason didn't bark this time. He swallowed it. Sometimes swallowing is an ugly sound. We walked out into winter. The sky over Jefferson Street was bright in that empty December way. Tom's breath steamed. Emily tucked the folder under her arm like a textbook and took my hand not because she needed help with the curb, but because she could. At the truck, she stopped. "Dad," she said, "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't," I said. "You just live easy." We drove to Nora's with the heater up and the radio low. The house on Lake Avenue looked exactly the way it always does after a good day. A little crooked lights, warm porch swept. Inside, Nora had soup. Tom took the end of the table like he always does. I set my brass coin down, and it made that small sound it has made for 30 years when a night ends right. Before dinner, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't know, then a message I left the order once. "I won again. Thank you for making a place for truth to land. L." I put the phone face down and looked at my daughter. She was reading the top page of the order like it was a letter from her future. She smiled small and real the way people do when a room finally belongs to them. If you've listened this far, you know I don't sell neat bows, life phrase, paper tears. But there are nights when the world remembers what it promised you when you were 6 and thought black olives were rings. If you're living with something you shouldn't be living with, tell someone who will write it down. If you know someone who might be, ask and then listen hard. And if this story helped you breathe a little easier, share it with a friend, leave a note, or stick around for the next one. The door's open.